Welcome, hello from Porto, Portugal. I've challenged myself to 3 days with only film cameras. 5 rolls of black and white film, various lenses, let's see what's possible. Well, that was an epic fail, wasn't it? The plan was to fly to Porto, Portugal to find some sunlight to test these classic lenses using VisiFlex housing on these Leica cameras. The problem was 3 rolls of film of 5 rolls were all blank, as you can see here. All photos shot with the lenses you just saw were completely blank. Coming up in today's video, I'll share my footage that I recorded in Porto, Portugal. I'll show you how I was taking the pictures, the equipment that I was using, the resulting photos, where I actually got some photos, some sights and sounds of Porto, Portugal if you've never been before. All that coming up, stay tuned. Hi guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So before we walk around Porto taking photographs, let's quickly look at the technicalities as to how and why I failed. So I took the Leica MDA, which has no viewfinder or rangefinder. I also took a 1931 black paint Barnack, also has no rangefinder. And then on both cameras, I use VisiFlex housing. For more information on VisiFlex housing, I can put a link below, but in brief, when you press this trigger, it should fire the mirror and the shutter at the same time, thanks to this little arm. The problem is I had the arm set too close to the button, so it fired the shutter, but not the mirror. As the mirror was blocking the view to the film, that meant all photos were blank on both the MDA and the Leica 3 camera. As you can see, the mirror just wasn't firing. So it sounded like it was firing, so I was quite happy taking pictures throughout this whole trip. I was recording behind the scenes footage to show you guys of my preview of how amazing the photos should have been. As you can see here, the view through these kits is just absolutely fantastic. I had like the biggest smile on my face the entire time. But it all failed because I had the arm too close to the shutter release button. I have now fixed the problem for next time, but as a result, all the photos you're going to see are shot with either the Voigtlander Bessa T, as seen here, with either the 35 or 21mm lens. It's a 35 Funleader Artist Lab or the 21mm Coloscope or f4 lens. The second roll of film that worked was shot with the Leica MDA, and that's when I wasn't using the VisiFlex housing, so you get some from each camera. Okay, let's look at the pictures. If you've never visited Porto, I can highly recommend it. I've been to Lisbon and I think Porto is even better. You've got the same trams and old buildings and all very photogenic stuff, and it's perfect for shooting film. Now in terms of film, my choices were to go for Kentmere 400 with a plan to expose it to 800 because it was forecast rain, as you're going to see as we get into the video. Then also take some Fomapan because in theory we're also due to get some sunshine, so I thought I'd use the Fomapan at 100 when we get some blue sky days, if we got some blue sky. I have pushed Kentmere one stop before and it is pushed quite easily, so that was the plan. And because I'm using vintage lenses, although the photo didn't actually come out, because vintage lenses are lower contrast, if you push film that increases the contrast to give hopefully a happy combination. The Bessa T, I also had Kentmere loaded, so I had Kentmere in both cameras on the first day. The plan was to use the Bessa, which has got a built-in light meter and a built-in rangefinder, to use the SID5 1.4 because I'm not comfortable at zone focusing a SID5 1.4 at say f2. So by having a built-in rangefinder, I just put the little light lens lab viewfinder on the very top, if you see there, and it gives me a really, really lightweight setup. Here you can see me setting the light meter. I set it to 640, and that gave me a bit of leeway with the plan to expose it for 800. And the plan was to use the lens f2 or ideally stop down a little bit to get the added sharpness. Here you can see the LED style light meter, so you get the green light when the camera thinks your exposure is correct for the given ISO settings. And I thought I'd do a grainy days style room photo to get started. So here's the first photo. In the winter months you can find accommodation in Porto for as little as £40 per night, and I found this apartment overlooking the trams, so if you like taking photos of trams like me, it's perfect. On day one I arrived in the afternoon and we had overcast weather, as you can see, so 400 speed film was perfect. One instant niggle with the Bessa T is it always falls back on itself because the strap lugs are not in the correct place. That was an annoyance instantly compared to a Leica camera. If you love street photography like many Leica photographers, you would absolutely love Porto. There's just so many opportunities for street photography, even on cloudy days like this. Personally, I was planning to use my long lenses, so I was looking at opportunities to get some compression shooting along the river. Here with 135mm, and I also had a 200mm. Ended up using my little seagull friend as my model, so I shot that on the 135mm. Sadly, there's no picture to show you. You got a few people working the front for tourists with like fake speed graphic cameras, as you can see here that this girl's got. So I went over and said hello to her. As you can see, it was trying to rain, but luckily it didn't come to too much. My plan was to try to get up to the bridge to hopefully have some better viewpoints to take some pictures. The 35mm was quite good on the little back streets. Once you get to the top of the bridge, you get amazing vantage point across the whole of Porto on both sides. It's pretty much endless pictures. When I'm not doing my usual model photography, I quite enjoy photographing both trams and bridges, so trams on bridges was like heaven for taking pictures. Once the sun had set, I was quickly running out of light for my f4 lenses, so I was glad I had my 35 1.4. For this trip, the plan was obviously only film, but in hindsight, I wish I'd taken a digital camera. There's just so many opportunities for amazing pictures. It would have been so easy with a digital camera for both the morning photos and the evening photos. I was trying to shoot my photos at a 30th of a second to have enough light to get these sorts of pictures. My plan was also to try to keep the lens at f2 because I know this pre-spherical copy is very soft, wide open, so f2 is a happy medium. Okay, day 2, I was excited for an amazing sunrise, and I wake up to rain and empty streets and just like a completely dead city. I set my alarm for about 5:30 to make sure I was out and in the city ready for sunrise or before sunrise, and as you can see, it was very wet and there was just nobody out at all. It was a Sunday morning, maybe that's why it was so quiet. It would have been so easy again if I'd taken my Leica M10P just to capture some amazing kind of moody shots with digital, but for film I really had to wait till it got a bit lighter before I could take any pictures. I got some amazing, I think, pictures of the lights on the bridge, on like an empty bridge with the long lenses on the Visoflex housing, but I'll have to try that again next time because, as you saw, I failed completely with all photos shot with the long lenses because of the Visoflex just didn't fire at the mirror. You can see totally empty city. I was so glad I packed an umbrella. It's the first time I've ever taken an umbrella on any trip because I saw the forecast was likely to be wet. If you plan to visit Porto, I highly recommend at least one wide lens. These photos are shot with the 21mm f4 scope R, the older scope R, and it was great to have a wide lens in my kit bag. So here you can see how amazing life looks through a vintage lens on a vintage Leica camera through the Visoflex. So this is a 90mm f4 lens on the 90-1 camera, and it just gives such nice rendering. I just wish my photos weren't screwed up. Another advantage of Visoflex, you can shoot over walls like that, like a Hasselblad. By that point, I'd finished my filming both cameras, so it was time to head back, get some well-earned breakfast, unload the Kentmere and reload with Fomapan. The forecast for the afternoon was blue sky and a bit of sunshine, so I was going to go from using 400 speed film at 800 to 100 speed film at 100. Because we would now be having blue sky, I was also going to use colour filters to increase the contrast in my black and white negatives. I had both yellow and orange filters with me, and that will darken the blue sky and give me a bit more contrast, which is particularly useful if using vintage lenses because vintage lenses tend to be lower contrast from the 1950s, 1960s. I did have to buy some step rings to fit some of these quirky lenses, but here you can see the shooting conditions. It would have been perfect for, as you can see, yellow or orange filters, as you can see from the sky. Word of warning, Porto is not particularly flat to expect to do lots of steps. The good news is the views from the top are fantastic. Here you can see me doing some macro with the 200mm f4 lens, although it didn't come out. And here's a 135mm view from the top. That would have been a great composition, I think, but it failed. Then I'll switch back to the 35 1.4 for some wider angle shots, shooting down off the bridge, looking at the kind of the streets below to try to make the use of the shadows. I'm not a huge fan of crowds and busy places, so then it was time for me to find some quiet places and head out of town. I walked along the river, and then I was using the long lenses to shoot back at the bridges and back at the town to try to get some compression with the 135mm, 200mm, things like that. I even found a spot down by the water, where some of the fishermen go, and again with 135mm, fantastic compression looking back towards the old bridge. I'm definitely going to head back to Porto and take the photos that failed this time. Now I know some of the compositions that I want to shoot. I think I'll probably leave the 200mm behind. I didn't use that much, but 135mm was absolutely perfect. And if you get a small 90, they're easy to fit in your bag too. If you love street photography, you'll love the light alongside the river as the sun is setting. Okay, day 3. So day 3 and blue skies, fantastic. The local seagulls were already having their McDonald's breakfast as I walked past, and the light was looking so good. Let me know in the comments, should I have been shooting colour? As you may know, I normally shoot black and white film, but on such occasions like this, I think colour film would probably make the most of the amazing colours in the sky. As I only had black and white film with me, the plan was to use colour filters to try to lighten the yellows and oranges and darken the blues. The photos just looked so nice through the VisiFlex viewfinder. I had like this massive grin on my face as I was walking along nearer and nearer to the bridges. In this shot, I tried to get some sunburst effect. It was then time to climb a bit higher to see if I can find a better vantage point looking back at the city. You can see the bridge in the background. Again, using both cameras, I set up my phone on the fence to try to show some behind the scenes. That all sounded like a great idea, except I forgot my phone was there and just walked off and left it. My phone was there for 10 minutes and somehow I came back and it was still there. I was so relieved that it was there. It was then time to climb back up to the top because I found a cool place with this old framing, which I thought would be really nice for wide angle photos. My plan was to try to have the sun behind the pillars so it didn't flare the lens. As much as I could have stayed all day, it was time to race back to the apartment, get some breakfast, then check out to get to my flight back to the UK. I took a few photos on the way back, as you can see here. And seeing Porto in full sunshine showed me there's just so many photo ops. So in conclusion, was it a completely wasted trip? I think no. I was very disappointed that I didn't get any of the pictures that I was so excited to see. I actually developed the film as soon as I got home. I was that excited. But I'll use this as maybe a practice run. I now know what lenses will work and what lenses maybe not so good. I'll then rebook the trip maybe for next month and I'll see if I can do better next time. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button if you like this style of video and I can do more. And as always, a huge thanks to my amazing patrons.